Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast. So, let's have a look at how to use the chat facility. To use the chat facility, the first thing to do is to type your comment or question into the chat box. You can now enter your screen name. Your screen name will show when you type your question or comment. Now you will see the chat facility ask for your email address. As I mentioned before, each of our pages are linked to people from the organisation who can reply to your questions. You can enter your email address, which will not be shared with anyone, to get a direct response from the people behind the broadcast. If you do not want a direct response, then click the button at the bottom. People behind the broadcast can still respond to you if you don't provide your email address. This just means you may have to come back to the page to check the response. To type your question, simply click on the chat box. You will then see two symbols appear. The @ symbol will mean your comment or question will be posted publicly for others to see. The email symbol means your comment or question can be sent directly to the person of your choice from the list that will appear. You can now speak to the people behind the broadcast and ask any questions you may have, or check out our partner pages to see the companies we work with who you can speak to right now about their current vacancies. You can also check out our careers page, which connects you to employers. Our live chat service is linked 24/7 to employers from a wide range of sectors, all waiting to hear from you. You can leave a question about how to produce a professional CV or how to prepare for interviews, anything work related, and one of our businesses will respond to you directly. You can also access a wide variety of live interactive broadcasts and video on demand with the live chat support on all pages. Now this bit is for the parents, guardians and teachers. The best bit about the live chat facility is that it is completely moderated, so you don't need to worry if your young person leaves a silly comment, as it will only show on their screen and no one else's. Another great thing about the chat facility is that it is GDPR protected, so no information is shared with anyone else. We will protect all email addresses and will never share personal information of the young people. If you have any questions about the chat facility or the Learn Live channel, please use the email us icon at the top of the page. Thank you, stay safe and stay tuned.
Good morning everyone. Well, you're halfway through the week already, and by now you should have some really clear ideas of what your pavilion looks like and the way it will be powered. Now, Heriot-Watt University experts are going to take you to the next stage and start to formalise your floor plans. And don't forget, you can ask your questions after the broadcast that you may have by placing them in the live chat, which is next to the video player. Now, on with the broadcast.
Good morning. This video is put together by my colleagues George and Shamil. Today we're looking at finalising your idea and drawing a floor plan.
Hello, my name is George Jaramillo. I'm an assistant professor of design here at Heriot-Watt University.
Hi, my name is Shamil Mohammed. I'm an assistant professor in architecture at Heriot-Watt University, Dubai. I currently teach and lead the second year design studio for the undergraduate BA program in architecture.
A floor plan is a type of bird's eye view that allows you to share how a building is built, how spaces relate to each other, and even the circulation and relationship of furniture and people to one another. First, let's talk about scale. Scale is a type of relationship or ratio between an artifact in the real world and the representation of that artifact in your drawing or form. Scale allows you to communicate and showcase something very, very large in a much smaller space. And it is an important tenet of architecture and design. For example, 1 unit to 1 unit is a 1-to-1 ratio scale. It represents a full-scale version. You can think about it as an item that has the exact same size and shape as the item that will get built. A 1-to-2 scale or ratio is an item that is built at half the size of its final form. So if you were to imagine a pencil or a large train, that scale at half scale, or 1-to-2, would be half the size of the building. With that idea in mind, you can continue to start to create larger scales or ratios. The second item that we're going to talk about is called the cut plane. In the example that we're talking about, imagine you take a pepper and you cut that pepper at a particular height. And if you were to imagine that pepper then, what that line or sketch of that pepper would look like when it was cut from above would be the cut plane. A horizontal cut plane is called a plan, and a vertical cut plane is called a section. With the cut plane, in buildings and in forms and other designs, that physical cut is an imaginary cut, and it allows you to envision what the space looks inside, the way that you would envision what the inside of a pepper would look like. Have a go at the example of cutting a pepper and imagining it what that pepper form would look inside. What is the thickness of the walls of the pepper? What is the thickness of its seeds and its central form? How does the pepper differ from the outside to the inside? With these two key skills in place of scale and cut plane, you are now able to start to draw your own floor plan, whether be it for an object, a piece of furniture, or for the pavilion that you are drawing.
Does that make sense? My colleague Shamil is now going to go through step by step drawing an actual floor plan, and hopefully this will help you to draw some plans of your own pavilions.
So what I have here is a 1 centimeter dotted grid in here, which is readily available on the internet. So you can just take a print to use it as a base drawing. And the first thing that we need to do is to determine a scale. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm using a scale which is 1 centimeter in this paper space is 1 meter in the actual physical world. So I'm going to write down that scale in here. Having set the scale, which is 1 centimeter as 1 meter, let's try to draw a living room of a dimension which is 5 meters by 4 meters. So I'm going to start marking on the grid. So that's where I'm going to start. 5 meters wide. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 4 meters long. Just going to mark out a rectangle in here. Now, right next to the living room, I want to draw the dining room, let's say, and that's going to be 4 meters by 4 meters. So from there, I'm going to mark out 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in order to build the space, we need to have the space sort of marked out by walls. So the next step is to indicate that walls. Typically, an exterior wall is 20 centimeter in width, in thickness. So in order to depict that in this paper space, where 1 centimeter is 1 meter, 2 mm here would then be 20 centimeters in the actual. So you kind of offset this line by 2 mm in this. We also need a wall between the living and the dining room. This wall is called the internal partition wall, and that need not be as thick as the exterior wall. So that could be 10 centimeters. So in this paper space, it's going to be 0.1. Now, how do we get into this room? There's no opening, there's no door. We need to now attempt to draw a door that will give access to the living room and then into the dining room. So first, what we can do is to open up this wall by 1 meter, and then I'm going to draw a door in plan. That's the door itself and shows the thickness. And then I can draw the swing of the door that shows how the door is being opened. We've come into the living room, we're using that door in there, and we have to come into the dining room. We're going to introduce another door. Next, let's introduce some windows. These rooms, they require sunlight, natural light into the space. And for that, we need to introduce windows. So I'm going to open up a wider opening, and let's say this is the north side of the living room where I want to introduce the windows. I make an opening similar way as the door, but here it's much wider. That's going to be 3 meters wide. And then in order to indicate a window intersection, you have a central line which depicts the glass pane and its thick line. And then you have the sill lines which are fainter than the central line. So that's a window. Great. So now we have something very close to a plan that shows you the doors, the walls, and then the windows. It also tells you what space we have on the inside. That's the living room and the dining room. So let's go ahead, and now that we're sure of where the doors and windows are and where the walls are, I can now draw over it using a pen. Right, so that completes the plan. I'd like to show you how to draw some furniture within these spaces. And that also reflects what kind of spaces they are. So in the living room, you would find, let's say, a TV stand. So I'm going to show a TV stand in plan view, which is the top view. And that's going to be in a rectangle with the TV in here in top view. So the walls, the windows, the doors, they're all cut. You will see them as a geometry that is actually cut. But you see these geometries, the furniture layout, often indicated as an elevation line. In a living room, you also will have a couch. So I'm going to just depict a 3-seater couch. that's facing the TV. In the dining room, you might have a nice dining table where people are sitting next to each other. So that kind of gives you an idea of how to draw a plan at a very basic level. Of course, you can all indicate dimensions if you want. So that gives a good idea for whoever's reading that plan. He or she understands the scale at 1 centimeter of this drawing is actually 1 meter on site. They also understand where is the wall, which is the external wall, which is the internal wall, where are the doors, and where are the windows, and what are the dimensions that they have.
So, I hope the explanation by George and then the walkthrough by Shamil has made it a bit clearer to you how to put together a plan. I'm just going to leave you now with some thoughts from Eamon, one of our students on Team Esteem, and her experience of putting together the plan for the Team Esteem house. Good luck with the plans for your own pavilions.
Looking back at how we made our Esteem floor plan, there was a very individual take that we took on it as a group, and using that I've created a poster which should hopefully help you understand the way we approached it and maybe help you guys. So it was something like this. So what I'm going to do is go through the different processes to eventually build you a floor plan. So what we did is first we looked at needs and desires. So when evaluating needs and desires, you have to take into consideration what kind of floor plan you're building and the way you intend to go about this. So for example, who do you want living in this house and who's it being built for? So are you building it for autistic people? Are you building it for people with dementia, the elderly, children? And this should start giving you hints of kind of stuff your house should have or the kind of stuff to avoid. Once you figure this part out, you go to the next part, which is to connect or not to connect. This part basically means what kind of connections would you like in your house and where would you like to be able to have access from what? Would you like to be able to keep some stuff private from everyone accessing them so easily? So after you figure these parts out, you can start using both of these to combine to start making what we call bubble drawings. So this would incorporate making something which looks like this. So this should start giving you more of a visual aspect of what your house is going to look like. Having done this, you can move to the most final stage, maybe the most grueling stage. So this is the main floor plan planning. Here you might end up with more plans than you think you'd eventually have. However, what you should do is use this to eventually come out with something that looks like this. So that incorporates making different array of plans which replicate this in the best way you think possible. So the way we went about it as a team is we had multiple plans and we narrowed it down to 4 that we really love. And using those 4, we created a pros and cons list about the ones that we liked the most. And then we gathered all the pros from the 4 and the best parts of each floor plan and made one big plan which looked like this. And that would be the best way to go about it because that way you're incorporating the best ideas that you've had all the way through to make the most desirable version of what you call your house. And hopefully you can get there too. So this is just a basic quick way of what we did. But of course you can go back to whichever way you want and hopefully this will help.
Welcome to this live chat facility tutorial. We have had a lot of questions recently about the chat facility and how to use it, so let's get into the video. The chat facility is built with students in mind, with a tool that doesn't need to be parent or teacher led. Each of our pages are linked to the person behind the broadcast, even after it's finished, so you can always ask your questions and get a response about the broadcast.